Hello, hello, and welcome to the Borealis Experience. I'm your host, Aurora, and I'm very excited to have Adrian Moy with me. He was on the show a couple weeks ago. We talked about suppressed masculinity and what we observe, like the mixed messages between men and women, and then the masculine feeling suppressed, the feminine feeling controlled and not able to express themselves free. And yeah, it's just a big mess that we're observing there. And we want to make sense of it, which we did in last episode. And today we want to offer solution to the gap that we see in between the masculine and the feminine. So I'm very excited to hear you out, Adrian. I know people out there are very hot to hear this episode. So let's dive into it and listen to what you have to say about the solutions that we could, I don't know, maybe offer to people, the healing that could happen in society. And the stage is yours.
Okay. Hello, Aurora. How are you, dear?
Very, very good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. And I'm happy to be back here again with you. And just for our listeners, for them to know, I'm going to do something really wild and fun today, since this is not a recorded Zoom video that we're sharing, but a podcast, and they can't see me. Today is my birthday. So since we're talking about things that are very raw and vulnerable, being my birthday, I thought I'd show up for this episode naked in my birthday suit. I'm totally kidding. That's not happening. But I thought it'd just be fun to say that.
Yeah, we just lost half of the listeners, but it's fine.
No. I think we probably gained more listeners. Who knows? We'll let it ride.
Just teasing.
Yes. So thank you for the introduction. And yes, last episode, and I'm going to put a link in this on my page when I post it to the episode for people who didn't listen to that and are just now getting onto this so they can catch up to where we are. Last episode, we talked about suppressed masculinity and where we see where that stems from and the effect that it has on society and how it creates a rift and a gap, a chasm between communication between men and women, healthy communication, where that leaves us and what it creates in our society. And so, like you said, this is healing that we're talking about. This is medicine. This is where we want to move to. So, like I told you in our pre-warm-up, I got quite a bit of feedback from the last episode. One was a lot of people love that we're having this conversation and they want to hear more and we're on the right path. Two was people who had a very hard aversion to this because it triggered them and they weren't able to see that this is a proper way to move forward, at least not for them. They were challenged by it. And then the third was people who did have many beautiful male, masculine, gentle, strong, powerful, confident role models in their lives that weren't cut off from their emotions. And so for them, I say, good for you. They're not necessarily the target audience, but it's also not bad for people who are in that world to understand there's a different world out there that a lot of us see on a regular basis. So real quick synopsis, suppressed masculinity. Really quick, I want to touch base on that. There is a difference between being machismo and masculine energy. You know, being a well-rounded, handsome or not handsome, but put together person, male or female, but we're talking about the men, is one thing. And they can see this man as what people call machismo is the word that I hear, very macho. That's a very masculine trait that people see in a man, but that's not the masculine energy that we're talking about. We're talking about the masculine energy code of a man who is confident within himself to be a loving, kind, gentle, compassionate person. And the lack of that we see in our regular life leaves us wondering, where is this? Now, again, it's not like these things aren't available in our world. It's not like there are no men out there who are beautiful, loving, gentle, wise, good listening, supportive men. There are. But predominantly, the biggest thing that we've seen in our day and age is the average man and the way the average man lives his life and how he goes out into the world and depicts himself and shows up for other people, to his other fellow men, and even more so to women, has been a very big hurdle in our healthy community. I see women constantly being harassed on social media. I see women constantly telling me how they're so tired of men approaching them in a lewd, overly aggressive, sexual or lustful manner. I see men being combative with each other. There are many brotherhoods out there that are very beautiful. There are many groups and clubs and organizations. Like when I think about real beautiful men opening up, unfortunately, the first place I go to is at a alcohol or drug addiction rehabilitation gathering. When you get some very good, successful rehabilitation circles with men, you can see men blossoming in that place. Or another example is in the prison system. When the men have nothing left in their lives and they're there with the brotherhood and they get to sit in a circle and talk about their vulnerabilities, oh, the bleeding hearts that come out there. Why aren't we like this in our everyday society? This is what we're talking about. And episode 1 kind of spelled out a lot of some of the history that you and I have seen. And there's an entire myriad of things that we didn't talk about. We could have gone on further detail about each one of the different aspects and points we made in the last one. But overall, generally speaking, there is a lot of suppressed male energy in the world because on an average basis, men aren't raised with gentle, loving, nurturing, vulnerable other men. And they don't have that, and they don't know that. So as far as moving forward from this place, for myself, and again, I'm speaking from me, and you resonated with this, so that's why you and I are making this podcast. Other people may not agree with this or have these experiences, but speaking from myself, what I do for myself as a man is I show up to the world for both men and women how I would like to be approached. And it's the thing that I did for myself a while back in my own self-discovery and in my own desire for personal growth and self-exploration. One of the things I realized is when you put too much emphasis on looking for validation from something else, you're doing exactly that. You're putting an expectation on another person, whether it be a father, a mother, a boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, son, child, mother, neighbor, stranger. You put any expectation on someone else, you're setting yourself up to rely on them for that validation, for that expectation. I stopped doing that because I realized I'm setting myself up for disappointment because now I'm looking for something out of someone else that I want for my own sense of security. And I don't need to do that. I don't need to rely on another person. That doesn't mean I don't love the support and the affection and the care that I'm given from people that are in my life that care about me, but I don't want to depend on that. I don't want that to be my source. That way, I'm positioned in a sense where if someone doesn't show up for me in a manner that I would have appreciated or would have liked or had expected, there's no disappointment on my part. I'm not let down, and I don't have to hold the other person accountable for not receiving something that I was looking for. So on that journey, when I realized a very huge, a very big shift, or what's the word I'm trying to look for? There was a very huge swing on the pendulum of masculine energy in my life. And so I would look to the brotherhood for just true bond and connection. And I wouldn't get it. And we're talking about all the little everyday things. We're talking about just a smile and an eye gaze from a stranger, or having a good conversation with my neighbor, or even my own family members, or some of the friends that I have. These men are very shy to open up. And I'm an extremely exuberant male. I'm very happy. I'm very elated a lot. I'm very vocal about my feelings. I'm an open book, and I'll express myself very easily to people and open up very quickly. And I found out that many men would shy away from that. And we touched base on this really quickly in the first episode. Men have homophobia. That's a very big thing. And our society deems it fine for women to be affectionate and close and even intimate with each other on a very deep emotional level, but men not so much. Now, again, I just want to say we're not talking about everybody across the world, but what I've seen is the common average is when you open up your heart space and you open up your emotions and you get close to someone through a conversation or an exchange of an emotional experience, men shrink away. They feel this, they sense this attraction because you get really connected with each other. And then the very first thought that my intuition picks up on is they think I'm gay. And they get nervous and they get scared and they run away and they want to get away. I'm not gay. And many times I've had to tell men, unfortunately, and I always say this to them, I say, unfortunately, I'm sorry I have to say this to you, but this is the world that we live in. I want to let you know that I'm not gay. And I feel really kind of sour about saying that, but I only say it because I want to relieve them of that back of the mind thought. And I see them when they're having it, because I've had many conversations with strangers and in my job and in my life, with my career path and being a therapist and a counselor. When you open up with men, for me, when I open up with men, I feel the sense of huge nostalgia and they get excited. And then within just seconds, there's that thought, is this guy gay? And it's some of the expressions that I use. It's my facial expression. It's the tone of my voice. It's how openly I share some of my body language. But the fact that that thought comes up for them is somewhere where they shy away. And that gives me an indicator that they haven't had, these people that we're talking about, they haven't had true affectionate male companionship in their life. And some of them will even tell this to me. They will say to me, I've never met anyone like you. And they feel good when I let them know that I'm not gay, because then it's like, yes, brother, you can open up with me. You can be affectionate. We can share love with each other that doesn't go into sexuality. And this love that we're talking about is so powerful that it's a huge gravity. It's a huge magnet, and love is in all of our hearts. So when you're in the presence of love, when I'm working with somebody or if I'm talking with somebody and love starts bubbling up from me, their spirit, their heart, their soul is going to feel that love. And what they choose to do with it is what they want to, but also it's dictated greatly on what they're familiar with. So many men have not stuck around in my life just because I'm such a bleeding heart of love. They're so unfamiliar with it, it actually makes them uncomfortable. Mm.
And I can also see that for women, it's challenging. Like maybe I'm not an exception, but for me, if we were to go on a date, it would be very hard for me to first believe it's true, that you're being authentic, that you're not trying to trick me into something. And right. I would think, yeah, you're this open book, and where's the challenge? Where's the pain? Because I'm used to pain. And it's very interesting to talk with you. And I can see, yeah, it's challenging for men maybe even for women too. And your love is piercing through us and forcing us to open up and to heal. And this is what society needs. But for you, I could see maybe that it can be very lonely at times, or hard to understand. Is that
Yes,
yeah?
that's exactly that's and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because yes, even for women, the same thing. When you are showing up as just pure love, and I'm opening myself up, and people want to open up with me, like you said, for women, they're waiting for me to spring some trap or go into a different space with them. Like, how can I believe that this person is showing up for me, like with the power and the gravity and the attraction of a love partner, but then not even wanting to do that? That's the challenge. They think that this force of love, this amount of love, has to have an underlying ultimatum. Like, I will love you this much, and then because I want this from you. No, I don't. I don't need to have anything from you. I just want to be in the presence of love. And so for women, they are waiting for me to spring some trap, or they will fall in love with me and this energy will be great. And then if I say I don't want to go that place with you, then we can either cultivate a friendship, or many women have also left my presence. Because if I'm not going to be that thing that they are now attracted to, that I've shown up for as them, they want to have the whole package. They want to have everything. And so people feel like if I can't have everything, I guess maybe it would be too painful for them to have love without more than that, which is interesting for me, because why would someone want to say no to love? Well, that's where we can get into the other episode of the difference between sex and love. And that's a really big topic that, since we did bring it up in the first episode, many people have been like really begging for that one. And I want to give that one full attention in another episode. But for this one, moving forward with suppressed masculinity. So setting the stage there, how I showed up for men, how I showed up for myself, what I wanted to see. You could say in a sense that my life could be viewed as lonely, but I don't see it that way. Not to say that there isn't that sliver of a feeling there, because I definitely know I desire more masculine energy in my life, more masculine men in my life. I do want that, but I don't see it as lonely. For me, what it is when it's right, it will happen. So I'm not without anything that's not of great importance in my life. But since I do have this idea that I want it in my life, I know it's something that I will cultivate. So how do I cultivate that? I show up for the world the way I want to be shown up for myself. And what that looks like is true, authentic, masculine, gentle, vulnerable, open, confident personality. I wish I could have some cool little video clip that would show 2-second little snippets of all the little ways that I do this. I'll do my best to describe it now. I show up very gentle for men. It's not something that I practice or put effort toward, but I do remind myself when I see another man, whether they're in my office or on the street or in the neighborhood or anything, anytime we have a interaction, when I'm dropping my kids off and there's another dad there, or just somebody who works at a school that is a man, when we make eye contact, I smile and I say hello. I feel like that's one little thing. That's one little thing. Many people just don't even do eye contact. One of my favorite hobbies these days is I wake up before the sun rises so I can go walk around the lake and watch the sunrise. There are many men who do this as well. And some of them are hardcore athletes that are running to get in their exercise before they go to work. Some of them are just lazing their morning away, doing the same thing I'm doing. And in all of them, I always smile and say hi. And some of them will see me twice around the lake or once around the lake. And That's one little way that I show up for men, where I connect with them as just strangers saying hello, and how that affects their day. What they take from it, they could tell themselves whatever they want. But when I see how genuine their smile back is to me with just a hello and a wave, it is wonderful. Those are what I call fleeting moments. Just fleeting moments that we get to show up for in whatever manner. Another scenario is having a gym membership. I am in the men's locker room. And with all these men, and some of them are extremely athletic and some of them are not so athletic, but we're all there with the same goal. We're going to get some health and some exercise and some fitness and be good and vital for our bodies. In those places, as well as the gym staff members, the men, when I see them, I open myself up to just have a normal conversation. There is a very sensitive place, because you're not only in this locker room for a longer period of time than a fleeting moment, like I spoke about. You're now there sitting next to each other. You're at your locker, or you're at the mirror shaving or checking your hair or blow drying because you just got out of the shower. You're also getting dressed and being naked in front of each other. And it's like back in high school or grade school or whatever, but it's a place where you have an elongated period of time when you're around all these other men. And one of the things that I noticed there was men will open up in that space with each other a little bit. They'll talk about their day. They'll talk about the barbecue. They'll talk about how the work is going or what the family's up to. But when you get into a good conversation in the locker room, it actually gravitates other men and other people around to hear it, and then they chime in. And that's a really great place where I get to show them myself, and it sparks great conversation for men. It also triggers a lot of men, because now they're seeing me being myself and showing up. And again, there's that back of the mind thought, like, is this guy gay? Like, he's talking about love with men on a very intimate, affectionate level, and how it's missing in the world. And they can't not, they usually find themselves having something to say about it. That's another place where I show up to be this authentic sense of love. Another place is within my own family. With the men in my family, it's very interesting, because as this big ball of glowing solar love light, the men in my family aren't as so prone to being that with me. And it's not like they've said anything like, you're too much, or I don't feel that way. It's just that there's been rifts and issues that have distanced themselves from me. And what that tells me is that, without them saying it, I think I might be too much for them. Some of the conversations that we have are just regular complaining about the neighbor, or talking about the baseball game or work. And in any of those situations, when I like to dive into that and get into how they feel about things and what makes them laugh and what makes them cry, they completely shy away from that conversation entirely. They don't want to have it. They'll actually act like I didn't even say anything, and then just keep talking about what they were saying. And I'll even go as far as to interrupt them and say, oh yeah, no, yep, I hear what you're saying. Now that you brought this up, I'd like to ask you about ... And they'll just stare at me and they'll be like, no, I was just saying it because whatever. And they refuse to have these conversations. So I see how people who don't want to open up won't have it. And so for me, my biggest thing was, I'm not going to push anybody who doesn't want to have certain conversations. There was a wonderful man that came into my life through Tantra community circle, and him and I hit it off. And in this Tantra circle, you do practices of intimacy with everyone in the group. And him and I got to a place where they invite us to lay down next to each other, and even to cuddle into each other if we want to. Now, this was really a sensitive moment for me. I was like, okay, I think he might have actually been the first man that I've cuddled with, probably in my whole life. Because not even my own father or my grandfather or my uncles. So here I am, an adult, cuddling with another adult. And I'm like, well, I can do this. I'm going to open myself up and try this. And we did. We just cuddled into each other's arms like we were just really good friends that were just holding each other like through a tough time, but it wasn't a tough time, but it also kind of was because we were both new to this. And so we did that, and we connected greatly from that. And so we stayed in touch. We exchanged phone numbers. We went out and had lunch or coffee a couple of times. And then sure enough, after like the third or fourth date, if you want to call it, we were setting up our next time together, and he texted me and said, hey, you know what? I don't think I can do this. And I was like, well, what do you mean? What's wrong? And he said, I don't think I can do this because your energy is so big, and I just don't have it within myself right now to be where you are. And he was very nice to say it had nothing to do with me, and there's nothing wrong with me that he's criticizing. In his own life, he had so much going on that he needed to figure out for himself. He was just finally getting back into society, and I didn't know that about him. Apparently he had been a shut-in for like 5 years after he went through a hard divorce, and he was having issues with his kids and his job and career. And so he said he needed to go into his own space again. And that in my presence, I showed him how free I was and how alive my life was and how much I just soaked up every moment. It showed him he wasn't available for that. So he had to disappear. I'm happy that I was able to show up for him the way I did. And I'm happy that him and I got to have that experience. It is a little unfortunate that it went away because I was getting really close to him. We joked that we were two brothers from another mother. So that's kind of a thing for me. And what I would like to see, like I said, the way I show up for the world, the way I want to show up for myself, is I just continue to be love. Like that's my guidance point. I don't know anything else. People are going to take me however they want to take me. That's not my responsibility. I just check in with myself. Am I coming from love? Yes. Am I coming pure? Yes. Am I considering the other person's position? Yes. Am I showing up the way I would like to be shown up for? Yes. Am I holding them accountable for any way they're not able to show up back to me? No. I'm just being free. And that freedom of love has been a very big challenge for people. Not everyone. I'll say that, not everyone. You know, there are many people who have received me and love me, and we will be friends into every single lifetime we'll ever have to.
Wow.
I'm going to leave a space right now if there's anything that you'd like to say at this moment.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I understand you. I understand him. It was awesome of him to tell you what it was about, you know, to not just ghost you, to tell you exactly where he was standing. And I just hope that, yeah, you will never be discouraged to be the person you are, because like I said in episode number 1, you are a pioneer. This is why it's lonely at times. But what you have to teach us is what we need to learn. And you taught this guy probably so much already, and he just had to retreat and process that. But he will never forget. He will never forget. He just couldn't go any further. And this is what you keep doing with people on all different kinds of levels. And it's just, very, very precious. I don't want to call it work because you're not working. You're just being yourself, right?
Right.
It is very precious.
So some of the other things that I've seen and also heard from other people is, you know, where we talked a little bit about where the masculine suppression stems from our youth, but now here we are in episode 2. So what happens with that? I know stories of men who have been hurt by other men in their growing up. And because of that, they now see men as a challenge, a competition, and even in times of threat. I'm going to tell you a story about my own personal experience with that. And I was the participant in the trauma that was created. I was in high school, and my brother brought a very pretty girl over, and he was definitely interested in her, and I had never met her before, and he brought her in and introduced us and said they were hanging out, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then he had to go run off and do something in another room. I don't know if he went to the bathroom, and I just started talking with her, and without even thinking about it, here I am, some like 14, 15-year-old boy. I'm just opening myself up, and I just told her like, wow, you're really cute. She's like, thank you, you're pretty cute yourself. And then like within seconds, I think I was just like, would you like to kiss me? And she said yes. And we had no thought whatsoever. And so we started kissing each other. Now here comes my brother back in the room. He is devastated. I am a perpetrator. I am a predator on his woman. Him and I have had conversations about this many times since that childhood experience. And I've apologized profusely. I was a young lad. I had no idea what I was doing to my own brother. I wasn't doing it vindictively to him at all. Like, I didn't consider him at all. And so I've apologized. He always tells me it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. We were kids. I still know he harbors some resentment. There are other men whose stories I've heard where something along those same lines have happened. And from their childhood, whether it was grade school or high school or even college, and they've opened up and said, from that point, they will never trust another man again. They will not. They won't. We're talking about people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that have been holding this begrudging sensation toward other men because of something that happened in their youth that they cannot get over. They're turned off by men, and these are men that are turned off by men. These are very gentle, beautiful, loving men that will not have anything to do with other men because of how they were hurt. In that scenario where a man is hurt by another man from betrayal like that, it is not the other man's fault. He could have known better. He should have known better. He didn't. The woman chose. The woman was like, I'm going over here. I'm going to do this. That hurt that man. That hurt him to have her without any words or actions, or even if she did have words or actions, the bigger thing that he received from that was, you're not as good as this person over here. So I'm going to go play over here now. That cut him so deep because now he feels less. Now he feels not worthy. Now he feels not good enough. And it stuck with him. So some men have been so wounded by they see it as they're wounded by other men. The reality is they left themselves open and vulnerable to a mere situation where, again, as youth, we look for validation from others. And when it's taken away from us, we feel like a piece of ourself is taken. We feel like we got wounded. And that stuck with these men, and now they see men as competition. It could be competition in the workplace. Who's got the better car? Who makes the more money? Who influences the boss better? It could be competition against women, which guys look the best, have the best smile, the brightest clothing, and get all the women. If they're in good enough shape or not, if they're a good enough listener or a talker. So many ways that men put themselves in competition with each other, even in their own family. If brothers see that mom gives more attention to this brother than the other brother, if dad's always giving kudos to that one because he's the sports star, he's the successful one. And what happens is these men grow up very shy to exploring their masculinity with their fellow men because they're just cut off from it. Me showing up as myself and triggering other people because I show up so raw and so powerful. I show up so pure and so honest without any hidden agenda. It gets them to reflect on what they've been resisting in their life because of those childhood traumas or those past traumas. When they see somebody, and now we're going to go into the men and the women. When they see someone just showing up and saying, hi, I'm Adrian. Let's be friends and get to know each other and share all of our deepest, darkest secrets and thoughts and passions. All the men and women are like, what? What are you? Who does that? And I'm like, well, we all should do that because that's how we're going to grow and evolve. And they're just like, whoa, they're just like blown away. And a lot of people don't know this, but I will tell you, there is a group of people that I can do this with that I found out. There is a whole beautiful community in the Pride community. The Pride community is a very safe place where I get to open up. And even if a gay man hits on me, that's okay. And I see it as a compliment. I'm not offended by it. But in the gay community, there is a true purity of harboring your love and being your authentic self and showing up. I was on a committee for a handful of years in the local Pride festivals. And I was on their committees, and I was a representative and ambassador for them. I would help set up the festivals and the events and do some of the networking and sponsoring. And when I got to sit at these festivals and meet all these beautiful people, whatever their gender association was, the spirit of the festival was just be love. Be love as you are. Take down all your boundaries, take down all your worries, take down all your cares and concerns and all the ways that you've conformed yourself to fit in, and show up at this festival with love and a pure, open heart. And there was everyone there. Gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, asexual, non-binary, straight people, homophobic people. Everybody was all there. And people could just be themselves. I mean, it was even more beautiful to see the straight people being themselves at a Pride festival. They don't even get to be themselves in their daily life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy. And I have a hard time to word it correctly now with what I mean. But when you look at the beautiful rainbow community, let's call it,
yes,
they had to go through,
sure.
not all of them, but some of them, most of them had to go through such intense pain and fear with, am I going to be accepted by society? Is my family going to kick me out? Are my friends going to leave me? Blah, blah, blah. They have so much pain and had to deal with that, and then meet with people who went through similar stuff, and they can open up to each other. But for straight people, they never go through, or not all, of course, but some straight people don't have these challenges, and then kind of float in an in-between world. Do you know what I mean? I'm having a hard time to word it correctly. And
they didn't have epic life challenges that were constantly keeping them afraid to be anything close to their genuine self or their true passion.
Yeah, very well said. And to not have that, you would say, well, this is awesome. I didn't have to go through hell. But on the other side, that healing hasn't happened, and that cracking up. So now we have a lot of heterosexual people out there who have kind of half-assedly healed, but not still. They're still wounded, and they still relate to each other through wounds and not love. And how to create like a safe space for them now and finally crack up. And it's hard for me to see how it could happen, but I feel this is what we need. We need to be more like fiercely ourselves and more honest with how we feel about things, without fear of rejection.
Yes. And so right there, that point, the one word that I want to use right here is freedom. Freedom is the true wings. Freedom is the wings, taking the leap of faith. Geronimo, it gives you wings. Being free gives you wings. And what does it mean to be free? So with my story and my experience of not having the things that I wanted in my world to show up, and then my decision to show up for the world in that way, the biggest work that I had to do for myself during this discovery was to find out where I had all of my own resistance. So if I'm going to set out on this journey, I have to find out where I'm showing up in the same direction that I don't want to have other people experience from me. It's a very simple process, and it provided the most beautiful results. So the very first things was where I catch myself judging other people. If I'm judging someone, if I'm being impatient with someone, if I'm being critical of someone, or if I'm comparing myself to what someone else has versus my life. And I would have these thoughts all day long, all the time. I'd be watching TV. If I saw a commercial or a movie show or anything, I would have a judgment toward the actors and what they're doing and the depiction that they're showing. When I was at the gym, I'd see other men or other women with a healthier state of body. I would compare myself with that. If somebody was at the store with me and they got too close to me, or they weren't watching where they were going and they almost bumped into me and I had to move, I would immediately think that idiot needs to watch where they're going. And I would have these little thoughts. And then there would be thoughts about my family, thoughts about my friends, thoughts about my lover, all my neighbors, and I was like, all right, I'm tired of having these thoughts. I'm tired of allowing these things. I'm going to stop that. So now I'm going to watch my thoughts all the time. And it was a lot of work. I was actually blown away with how often I would catch myself, because having thoughts of condemning, critical, angry, judgmental, belittling thoughts, comparative thoughts, where I'm now demoralizing even my own self by comparing myself to other people, and not being happy with who I am, genuinely happy with who I am, and looking at other people and thinking, I wish I had that they have, or I wish I was like that they have. I had to catch myself, and there were so many in one day. There were so many in an hour. I got blown away with myself. It was almost laughable. But then I'm like, okay, so this is where you are. This is what you want to do. You want to start watching yourself, and you want to stop having those thoughts. This is the power of mind over matter. I am going to pay attention to my thoughts and find out where I am putting my attention to. If I'm looking down on someone, if I'm judging what someone did, if I'm ridiculing somebody in my mind, all those things, if I'm doing those things, thoughts are action, thoughts are vibration. Thoughts can turn into action, thoughts can turn into words. Thoughts can turn into how I'm dictating my own being. And so I was like, all right, you're not going to have those thoughts anymore. Well, what are you going to do with that? You're not just going to babble your way through a more idealistic way of thinking. You need to actually do something with that. So what is that? I was like, all right, well, here's an example. If I find myself judging someone, whatever the scenario is, when I catch myself judging them, I'm going to immediately stop that thought. I'm not going to suppress that thought, because that's lying to myself. I'm not going to suppress that thought, but I'm going to say, what's another way to look at the situation? All right, I'm going to understand that that person did what they did, and I am not that person. And they probably, whether they're conscious of it or not, felt validated to do or say or be whatever they were. What concern of that is mine? Why do I need to attach myself to that? And if I don't, then don't even give it that attention. An alternate to that is, what are alternate ways to view it? Well, that person's going through a thing. Can I show them compassion or patience or understanding, or just merely not give them attention at all? I don't have to put my attention on that. So I started chipping through all of my days and all of my hours, and there's small episodes and there's larger episodes. Once I got into the little teeny tiny small episodes, then I saw the larger ones that were playing out in my life, like how I viewed my brother. How many times a day something would happen that would remind me of my brother that has disowned me. And then I'd run through that whole train of thought of our history and our story and where we are now. And I'd rehearse it in my mind and end myself up with, yep, because he's not a good brother to me. And I wish I had a different brother. I wish he could be different. I'm like, well, now, wait a minute. Don't do that. You're trying to change this code. You're trying to not think toward people this way, whether they're strangers, families, or friends. So you have to give yourself a different thought process. You have to be in control of your thinking. And if your thinking comes from either an emotional state or what history has shown you, show up for yourself and change your thoughts. And I got good at it. I got quick with it. It happened more and more. Like I still to this day have all those same, you could call them aggressive or ugly or dark or nasty thoughts. They still happen. I'm still human, but I catch them faster and I can process through them quicker, because the most amazing thing happened. When I stopped judging people, when I gave myself a different thing to think about, instead of judging someone, understand that you don't know where they are at in their life, and either don't think about it that way, negatively or judgmentally, or just don't think about them at all. When I stopped being angry with other people who interrupted my day or offended me or bothered me, instead I would just be like, okay, this person's going through their own thing. I just need to set up a healthy boundary and not participate in whatever anger or aggression they're showing my way. Or when somebody would interrupt me and I would lose my patience with someone, they are not even involved in my life. They're just causing me impatience at a line or holding up my schedule or whatever. Again, I'm like, okay, instead of looking at it that way, understand that the timing was perfect for this situation and myself to show up. So the universe is just telling me to just take a time to breathe for a minute, take a time to relax. When I started getting better at catching myself from having these darker feelings and these aggressive, combative, competitive feelings, it left a hole in my thinking process. It left an open space in my heart. And now with this extra space, it got filled with other feelings and other thoughts of happiness and joy and compassion and understanding. That is an actual practice that I tell people. When you want to do the work and when you want to show up for yourself and the world in a different manner, and in this manner of suppressed masculine energy, this can go to both parties, both men and women. Show up for yourself in a different manner. Start with your own work. Because I believe that the people that we're talking to today, the people that are going to be listening to this, are ones who want to either share this episode with people that they see have this going on in their life, or they want to take it and digest it and put it into their own life. Find out all the ways you can redo your own thinking, and then give yourself some other space to have other things show up in your life. That was the best tool for me, at least.
Wow. Again, I'm learning tons today. And I love the practice that you're applying and that you just shared with us, because it also leaves us space to respond authentically and not react because of a trigger, because of an annoyance or something. And it's going to make us relate to people on a deeper level, because what you said, we have more space now for love and compassion and forgiveness. And we all need more of that in our lives. And self-forgiveness, self-compassion,
Yes.
we have
Forgiveness
these
is huge.
feelings, and to be there for yourself and to kind of nurture your way through to this, because it's tough to suddenly notice your thoughts and your feelings, and you just think, oh my God, I'm such a bad person, I should be locked away. And no, you can heal from that, and you can heal yourself, and we can heal together. And wow, like what you shared today was, again, so powerful, and I know it will help so many people. And soon we will talk about the love versus sex, and I'm just very excited to connect with you again and talk more.
Yes, and I believe that one tailors right into the end of this episode, because that's a very big pivotal thing, separating the difference between sex and love, because love is what we're talking about, and when people get the sex part confused, that's where they don't open up for genuine love.
Very, very well said. Well, I'm wishing you a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful birthday. I'm so grateful that you took the time for us, that it is a safe space for you, that you feel good here, and that you invited us into your world. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for listening to this beautiful conversation here. And just as a side note, please know that I feel very triggered when a man is so liberated and free and so loving. And maybe you felt a little bit the same. Maybe you felt challenged. And it is totally normal, because, as I said during the interview, he is a unique person. He is a pioneer. But, you don't always have to steer the steering wheel abruptly into a new direction when you invite change into your life. Sometimes just a little bit of steering to the side can have a huge positive impact on your life already. So I hope you found our conversation inspiring. I hope I was able to bring value to your life. And take good care of yourself. I will be out there very soon again. Never hold back from sending me comments. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast and give us some love on Apple Podcast. Leave us a review there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.